Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Engine Builder Show. On today's episode, our topic will be three powerful marketing principles that you can use today. This is definitely something that you don't want to miss. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody.
There was always a ton to learn. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well and that your year is off to a great start. And whenever you get to watch this, if you watch live, drop a comment down below, say hello, and of course, drop any questions that you have. And if you end up watching this later, then yeah, just leave any comments and we'd be glad to respond to those and help you. If there's ever anything that you want input on, advice from a marketing standpoint or entrepreneurial standpoint, I would love to help you with that. So as Jethro mentioned, what we're talking about is three powerful marketing principles that you can use today. And I think that there's plenty of times where as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as leaders, it's easy to overcomplicate marketing. And really, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's a fairly simple process. In a lot of cases, it's not always easy because easy and simple are not the same thing, as I always say, for a reason. But it actually is fairly simple to be effective and have powerful marketing and use the principles that are going to move things forward. And I was talking to one of my coaching clients yesterday about some of these things. It just reminded me of how important it is to understand some of the principles behind marketing, because when you understand the principles, then you can apply those in whatever channel you're using and whatever sales approach you're using, whatever marketing approach you're using. And so one of the most important things, and I talk about this in multiple different ways, and I talk about it all the time because it really is key, is that when you have multiple repetitions and you get your repetitions in front of the people that you want to work with, that's actually what builds trust. And so getting enough impressions is what we talk about from like a digital, technical standpoint. But instead of viewing it at just that level, I want you to think about it as like, how many repetitions can I have in the relationship with my audience? How many times can I show up? How many times can I be, consistent in how I, in how I talk about what I do, what I offer, how I help people, what your company does. And it's really by being consistent in those repetitions over time that people will trust you. Because if you think about the first time, you met somebody, you probably weren't immediately comfortable with them. You may have acted like you're comfortable. You may have not been comfortable, whatever it was. Then that first interaction, though, you didn't really know them very well. But if you continue to interact with somebody, if you continue to build that relationship, if they continue to show up and say they're a new person on your team, or they're a new, friend or associate or somebody you're working with, the more often that they show up, the more repetitions there are, the more you get to understand who they are, what they like, how they talk, what they're interested in, and how they work. And it's that repetition that builds trust. They become a fixture in your life. And so with repetition, we're able to really embed ourselves in our audience's lives and world. And the more they see us and the more we show up with the same, consistent messaging of what you do, how you offer it, what kind of things you solve, and you just continue to be yourself and show up authentically, that's going to build trust. And so imagine if you've only met somebody twice, you have a certain level of trust, right? But if you've been with somebody hundreds of times, like one of your best friends or somebody you've worked with for a long time, then you're going to trust them significantly more in most cases than you will somebody that you've only interacted with twice. So thinking about that repetition, that consistency, that's what really builds trust. And the more trust you have in your marketing and in the relationship you have with your audience, with your prospects, with your clients, then the more they're going to be willing to do business with you, and the more that they'll trust your advice. So that's something to keep in mind. The second thing is really related to that, and it's time builds trust. And there is a approach that I often use when I'm selling, when I'm in marketing and in sales, and that is I will have a first discovery call with somebody to learn about what they need and how we can help them, and then I could easily just explain everything and give them a proposal right on that call. And on occasion I do that. But when I start a relationship that way, it's got to be for a pretty specific reason, but often it's not as effective as what I'm going to say next year that is more effective. So often in a best case scenario, and what's worked well for me over the years and what I help a lot of clients do is, if you have that first discovery call, you meet somebody, you get to know them, you see what their challenges are, how you can help and serve them, then you can say, okay, great, that's definitely something we can help with. It's in line with what we offer, assuming it actually is, obviously. And then you can say, okay, so let's meet in 3 days, or let's meet next week, and I'll show you a proposal plan of how everything works. The time between, good morning, Vicki. The time between when you meet them first and you have that discovery call, and the second call when you follow up and show them that proposal, they are consciously, at some level, but even more so subconsciously, they're justifying their investment of time with you. So if they met with you today and then you're going to meet, a week from today, they're going to be thinking about you. They're going to see you in their calendar. If you send a follow-up email and say, hey, looking forward to getting together next week, where I show you the plan, you're going to own a piece of their mind and their attention. And they're going to have to justify to themselves why they should be working with you, why they should meet with you again, and why they should trust you. And so that time gap between your first meeting and your second meeting is actually to your advantage, because it actually does help you build trust. And it plays right into what we talked about first of, repetition. You're having another repetition of being in front of them and helping them. And so anytime we can build in that healthy, time gap of a few days or a week between the first conversation and the second conversation, almost always that actually increases trust and makes your sales a lot easier. And people will trust you more and they'll want to buy. And so that marketing mindset of like, how am I going to increase trust? How am I going to be in front of them is what you're really looking at in the time between your first call and your second call, or even multiple calls. So even though that's around kind of a sales function, there's a marketing principle and marketing mindset behind that. And the third thing that's important, and that I continue to learn more about, and my friend George Bryant talks to me about this quite a bit, is attention is what matters. In today's world, we have thousands and thousands of messages coming our way every day. We have tons of advertising going on. We have all these things that are distracting us or trying to, get our attention. And we have things going on personally, and we live in a crazy, crazy time. And I think a lot of times are crazy, but this time is definitely crazy too. And so things start to just become mundane at the noise level that they're at. And so if the example that is always true and that I always think of is like, if you drive by the same billboard every day on your way to work, or when you're going to the grocery store or dropping your kids off for school, if that billboard stays the same forever, eventually your mind will just tune it out because it's a distraction and it will no longer get your attention. But if the next day they change the billboard out and you drive by and it's some insane picture and like this 3D billboard and something that just totally shocks and surprises you, they've got your attention now. And if that's done effectively and with the right target of they want you to call, or they want you to visit a website, or they want you to do something, then they can capture your attention, and then then it's in they are in your mind, and you will think about using them, and you'll be aware of them. And so in marketing, we have to find ways to ethically and in alignment with who we are, authentically who we are. We have to get attention, because otherwise we just blend into the feed. Couple things that I always do because of this just kind of simple principle of getting attention is, a lot of times when I post something, I'm going to put a more kind of extreme or bright color or picture. Like when I'm posting a status, if I can use a bright background, I'm going to do that. If I am talking about something that I want to get attention on, I'm going to use a really interesting picture. One time I used a picture of dirty feet. And it got a lot of interest and engagement because it was something different. And so in your marketing, whether it's in digital, it's in traditional media, in how you show up and talk, and just how you are marketing yourself in general, not just talking about one channel, it's definitely key to make sure that you're thinking about, how can I get the maximum amount of attention in a way that is aligned with my brand. And another example there that I think I've talked about on the show already, but is I remember a few years ago when Red Bull had somebody jump from a space station or from a satellite. They jumped in outer space and jumped and dove into the ocean and on Earth. So they jumped from miles up, and it was crazy, and they got a ton of attention. And Red Bull's slogan is "Red Bull gives you wings." So it was aligned with like who they are, what their brand is like. And it was just a great way to get attention. And so you probably don't have the budget to fly into space and jump off a space station, but you do have things right in front of you that will get attention, that will make a difference, and will help people pay attention to you. And so those are the things to really pay attention to, is in your marketing and your principles of how you approach things. Is remember that repetitions build trust, and in your repetitions, just outlasting everybody else is a really simple strategy. But repetitions build trust, so make sure you're consistently in front of people. Time builds trust, so intentionally putting the correct time gap between first and second interactions would definitely be beneficial. And then the third thing is just really look at how can you consistently get attention? How do you change it up? How do you repackage what you're already doing effectively that you really deliver well on? How do you put a new package or a new wrapper on that so more people pay attention to you? So those are things that you can think about and apply today in your marketing. And of course, if you need help, reach out and we would be glad to talk to you. So we'll see everyone on the next episode.